Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Muraro Nematayeni. I am a certified financial planner by profession, founder and CEO of ImPowerX Advisory Services. And I also run ImPower'd Woman Book Club, which is a registered nonprofit organization working for the rights and empowerment of women. And we do this through a book club. Our aim is to empower, educate, and celebrate women. Every month, we read a book and we have a review on the last weekend of the month. So today it's Sunday, the 30th of October, 2022. And the book that we were reading this month is Boardroom Dancing by Nolitha Fakude. We just had our review session, and I just wanted to share my thoughts or what I wrote throughout the month when I was reading this particular book. So this book is divided into 5 parts where Nolita shares about her early years, stepping out, a national stage, global transformations, and the journey ahead. Part one, which speaks about the early years. So on this part, we learn about Menolita's childhood, where she grew up, her family, and Nika's store. And we learn about her going to college, finding her freedom in varsity. So when I was reading this book, it was clear that indeed economic empowerment or economic power gives you the choices and affects the way people treat you. It's a journey that one can relate to. And when it comes to finding yourself in spaces where you just wonder how you got in, you'll enjoy about reading how she got into the choir. And for me, I was reminded of a time in September 2020, September 2022, so just last month, when I went to the parliament to interview for the role of commissioner with the Commission for Gender Equality. And also our book club earlier this month, winning the Essential Gender Mainstreaming Award on empowerment of women in community in Southern Africa. And there's also a section on choosing one's religion, which for her had to do with believing that God created humans with the ability to choose our actions. And the book also makes one to read want to read more on Bantu education, power in line with Jack's vouchers. There's a guy called Jack in this book that was issuing vouchers, and people would just go and buy in different stores where he has agreements using those vouchers instead of paying them in cash. And then there's also where she speaks about failing when she went to varsity, and then also the exposures to the realities of injustice, and then also her finally seeing herself as a leader. And as we read this book, we get to learn a lot and also position ourselves in terms of what we want to achieve in our lives. And my key takeaway from part one is to surround yourself with people who motivate you to do better and be better in education, in thinking, and also in life choices. Because she was saying that there was a time where, when she was with other people, you're sitting with people that have their masters, their PhDs, so it motivates you as well to take action and then do what is necessary in terms of furthering your studies. And part two is about stepping out. And oh boy, me Nolita did step out. So she steps out into the Woolworths, where she was starting in Woolworths graduate program as part of the first cohort where Woolworths was accepting Black graduates. And when asked what her aspirations are, she simply said that she wanted to be a director of Woolworths. And that did happen 15 years later. And that just shows the importance of stating what your aspirations are and what you want to achieve. And it's true that everyone starts somewhere, and one needs an exciting space and a value based organization, because as she shares about her journey and the challenges that she faced within the company, that she wanted change, whereas the company itself wanted change, whereas there's some employees like the HR people that were doing the absolute opposite. As we were having our review earlier on, somebody pointed out to this HR person to say, when they were relocating, the black graduates were not told about the policy that allows their their relocation costs to be covered. People were having their dogs flown over to Cape Town, while black students were having their their belongings damaged as they were being transported because they didn't know that the company was covering those costs. So at times they had to go to another another work function or work training in another city, and they were told that it's cancelled. And when everybody came back, they were like, why didn't you come? And they were like, we were told that this was cancelled. So there was a lot of information that were hidden, or information that was not clear or correct based on their gender, and not just gender, also on their race as well. So they had to fight and also do presentations to management in terms of challenges that they were facing as Black people or Black graduates or Black professionals in their space. And that just shows the importance of speaking up and also looking at what it is that you could lose, because she was asked, how much does she love her job? How much does she love her car? Because the step that they were about to take and go and present about those challenges was something that could have costed her her job as well, had the management not been for change within the company. So education, environment, job creation, those were some of the core areas that she focused on as a community affairs manager. And you love reading how she gets more hands involved through the employee volunteerism program. And I see this happening in most companies and also in corporate South Africa, where I was working before. You get allocated extra leave for volunteering, and then you could just go and do what you love and spend time with people that you are giving back to, and doesn't even affect your leave days. So those are some of the things that they started with the volunteerism program, employee volunteerism program. And she also shares about her journey with the Black Management Forum. And this is where she really stepped out. And in this journey, I will go back to page 116. I was reading that when I was doing a review with the ladies earlier on, but I'll touch on that when we get to part three of her journey, as I explained that. But she shares about hosting Umama, Winnie Mandela, and learning about being fully present when engaging with children and handling yourself as a leader and earning a place at the table. So she also shares about being part of the Harvard Senior Executive Program with Umzwanele Manyi, being regional chair of the BMF Western Cape, head of HR in retail operations, and also engaging with different unions, involvement in empowerment, equity, and BEE helped while cultivating the consultative leadership style, to being seconded to a BMF for a year on full salary from Woolworths. So this woman has totally done wonders. And my key learning on part two was on self awareness, where she says, knowing that I want to say yes to opportunities life was presenting, but also consciously making choices and organizing my personal life in such a way that I could say yes. For her, it was sending her son to boarding school. And when I read this, I asked myself, what choices do I need to make now to be able to say yes to opportunities? And then coming to part three, so this is a national stage. We first read about Woolworth being a value-based organization, and on this chapter, Menolita becomes the managing director of the Black Management Forum. We hear more about this mission-driven organization. For me, I joined the Black Management Forum when I was still with Nedbank Financial Planning. I was in Richards Bay, so that was in 2016. And when I was in Richards Bay, I got to be part of the BMF Young Professional Development Program, YPDP. and it was the first one to happen in KwaZulu-Natal. And I will travel from Richards Bay to Durban once a month for a blog session. And I can attest that this organization does invest on their people and they develop managerial leadership. And another program that I've been a part of was the BMF Woman in Power program that was in 2019. And that is where, on my Lift As You Rise project, I chose to start ImPower'd Woman Book Club. And it's been 3 years that we're running this book club. And we've grown from 3 women to 190 women all over the country, and also with women on other parts of the country. And with that, I can say that I've also realized in the past few weeks that experience matters. And based on her experience in Woolworth, she was able to replicate processes and standardize systems within the Black Management Forum. And it is also important to understand the power of image. So they published a coffee table booklet against all odds. They launched the African Leaders magazine and also had a website. And as empowered women, there's a lot that we can learn. And as you can see on our logo, we have the individual at the center, and the eye is the icon on the logo, which makes it clear that this is the woman that is to be empowered. We want her to be at the center and also to be celebrated. And as a 3-year-old organization, there's a lot that we can learn from the Black Management Forum, which has been in existence since 1976. And collaboration is key as well. So she worked with the Secretary General of NUM, Babugwede Mantashe, and at the center of her work was employment equity and skills development. We read of the Black Business Council, the Business South Africa, and the establishment of Business Unity South Africa. And we see names like Upetrus Mutsipe. I want to read his book on disrupting and him coming up for leadership, and also about the Black Leadership South Africa, so BLSA. And talk about redefining a woman's place. When some thought women should wait their turn, the president, Ubeki Sibiya, decision to stand for second term was indeed, decision not to stand for second term was indeed BMF's intent to put the gender agenda back on the table. She didn't have to go and fill men's shoes, but intended to go with 5 pairs of shoes. And these shoes, as I indicated on page 116 of the book, she says, I had made it clear that I did not intend to wear men's shoes. Rather, woman that I am, I was bringing 5 pairs of shoes into my presidency. They included high heels to stand tall and look at my male peers stay straight in the eye, sneakers so I could be agile, running and skipping as necessary to navigate this leadership role, sandals with flowers so I don't take myself too seriously, boots with spikes to kick butt, and slippers for tiptoeing and moving stealthily. Finally, I also said that sometimes I would walk barefoot to stay humble and keep in touch with Mother Nature and my ancestors. So, with that, she was sharing about getting into a role and where it's only been men that have been presidents of the Black Management Forum. And as we look back many years later, she's the only woman that has ever been a president of this organization ever since its establishment in 1976. And she was the first amongst equals. And we celebrate you, Nolitha Fakude, for being the woman through which it is evident that gender equality matters. President of Black Management Forum National from October 2003 to 2006. 2003, I was in grade 7, so I was finishing my primary school, and a lot was already happening in terms of transformation. And through the engagements with other CEOs, they were also invited to be part of the World Economic Forum, and they engage with different CEOs and also ensure that people get to go to this elective leadership and development programs, because when people have to cut budget, they cut training and development. So she made sure or stressed that training and development, it's critical. It's something that should not be cut, and how developing our people allows the company or the organization to be at better positions. And then she goes and joins Nedbank, and they after Sasol. And there's great learning as well for anyone who would like to be in management and leadership, because she speaks also about the importance of succession planning, and that's greatly highlighted. And we hear of some politics and how Umzwanele Manyi became the president of the Black Management Forum. And my personal highlights from this part was on how one needs to understand the difference between power and influence, and learn how to work with people and how to work through people. And most importantly, know when to walk away and to not bend the bridges. So that was part three for me. And then coming to part four of the book, part four speaks of global transformations. And with global transformations, we learn about, or it shows us the importance of working in global spaces. Having joined Sasol as an executive director of strategy and human resource, her three key areas were talent management, culture change, and transformation. You'll enjoy about reading about warm hearts and cold hands. And another thing that is important is culture in an organization. And just as Peter Drucker puts it, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So Nolita had to make sure that they move from a culture of command, control, and arrogance to a culture of inclusiveness and acknowledgement of others. And as she was doing this in a global company as Sasso, she she also made reference to the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and this is one of the books that we've also read as Empowered Woman Book Club. When she mentioned Hixonia Nyashulu in her book, I got so excited because myself and Carol Kumalo, we attended a women's event that was hosted by Mercury newspaper. I was still in Durban, and I had just relocated to Richards Bay. So on August 2015, I went to Durban to attend that event. And I still remember what she said on that particular event. Carol, when I was speaking to her last week, she was indicating that she remembers Hixonia mentioning that reputation is it's important, and protecting your reputation. And for me, what she mentioned was how she enjoys reading the annual reports. And as I was preparing for the commissioner role interview, having to go through the the two latest annual reports for my interview, I had her in mind because she just stated that she enjoys doing that. So for me, as I was doing that, I had to enjoy reading that. And there's so much information that is hidden or that is plainly there on the annual reports of organizations. So I would encourage anyone that is interested in doing business with any organizations to go through their annual report, so that you know how the conversation should go, or what is expected, or what the organization stands for or invests in. And on this part, we speak about the face of leadership, and it indeed makes us want to be leaders also. And I always say, when women like me lead, and I read this at a time where a woman like me, Palesa Dube, was awarded Financial Planner of the Year by the Financial Planning Institute of Southern Africa. Yes, it is possible for people who look like me to be their best and lead the rest. And it is such a motivation. So when women like me lead, it is proof that it is possible. And forums are also very important as we get people organized and have their views taken into account. For example, they had women's business forums and social partnership forum. And another thing that stood out for me, however so small, was how Cecil became a sponsor of Banyana Banyana. And as Menolita was sharing how she was watching TV and then she saw that and then she acted by sending through an SMS to her team to look into that. And for me, that was a think and act, the power of doing, and shows the importance of when you have a great idea to work on it, because if you don't, you're going to forget. And we always get great ideas, but we never implement or we never act on them. So she also addresses the importance of Stockfels in this part and as they listen to Waiting to Exhale. And two things stood out for me on part four. The first one is getting noticed when she speaks about building a reputation and volunteering to be part of committees and stating that the point is to get into the room. And I do a lot of volunteer work. And from reading this, I made sure that my name is mentioned for the work that I do so as to get into the room. And I call myself a connector of nations. So when people want anything, like just this past week or past 2 days, somebody was looking for women in business to invite to a business breakfast in Bulogwan. And when they reached out, I was able within a day to engage with ladies within the WhatsApp group that I run and also the ImPower'd Woman Book Club WhatsApp group to say, ladies, there's this opportunity. If you would like to attend, send through your name, your number, your business name. And I was able to get 10 people for her to be able to invite to this space. So I'm a believer of spaces for collaboration, and I believe that important information needs to be shared and opportunities also need to be shared with people. So with that said, I've got a WhatsApp group called Muraronde Matayeni and also a Facebook group called Muraronde Matayeni. We've got about 400 people on the WhatsApp group and 2,400 people on the Facebook group. The second thing that I learned is, what do I bring to the table? And when I read this question at this point of my development, it was real. Because we at times make comments that we own the table or I'm the table, but the question remains, what do I bring to the table? And lastly, for Nolita, they said, you bring balance and diversity of thoughts to the table. And as we open ourselves for growth, we enable those around us to grow. Now to the last part of the book, part 5. So this speaks about the journey ahead. And this is about reigniting the gender agenda and talks about the agency of putting gender equality back at the front and center of transformation efforts. As a Makazi, a Mafungwashe, a firstborn girl, I totally understand female power and the responsibility that comes with it. She speaks about the need to spark meaningful conversations around gender agenda amongst and within the Black community in particular. The majority of South Africans are still economically disempowered. Yes, we have achieved political freedom, but we still lack economic empowerment. There's women who still face sexual harassment in the workplaces and still have to deal with colleagues who behave inappropriately. And we indeed need a new champion around the gender agenda. Leadership is very important. And as you read the book, you learn about the 4 rules of engagement she outlines in this chapter. And as a country, we indeed need to talk. My favorite part of the book, which summarizes what we read this month, is also found in this last chapter. And she says, transformation is not only about righting the wrongs of the past, it is about creating a shared future, identity, and vision for us as South Africans through a truly consultative process. Thank you for reading Boardroom Dancing with us as ImPower'd Woman Book Club. And a special thank you to Ideal Book Club for inviting us for a conversation with the author, meeting the woman who has done so much in transformation and having her sign our copies. It was a moment of letting her know that the new champions are ready. So my copy is signed, and then she says, "Dearest Muralo, thank you for your authentic leadership and courage. Continue to shine. Best wishes, Nolitha, October 2022." So thank you once again for watching this video as I share about my experience of Boardroom Dancing by Nolitha Fakude. I thank you.